How to remember words. Alex stared at his vocabulary list, frustration simmering. He had spent countless hours meticulously memorizing words, yet they evaporated from his mind almost as quickly as he learned them. This repetitive cycle left him feeling defeated and questioning his entire approach. He wondered how to remember words effectively if traditional methods failed so miserably. A heavy sigh escaped him. He began to internalize a cynical thought: why you should not learn English at all, if it's this agonizing? The language felt like an impenetrable fortress, guarding secrets he couldn't unlock. This discouraging mindset paralyzed his efforts, pushing him further away from his goals. His biggest hurdle wasn't just forgetting words, it was the terrifying prospect of speaking. "I don't want to make mistakes, but I always do," he'd lament, avoiding any English talking practice. This crippling fear of imperfection made him silent in social situations, missing countless opportunities to truly engage and improve. One rainy afternoon, browsing a dusty bookshop, Alex stumbled upon an old woman named Alara. Her eyes twinkled with an unusual wisdom. She wasn't a typical teacher. Instead, she radiated an aura of playful defiance, an unconventional spirit that immediately intrigued him despite his skepticism. Alara sensed his despair. "You're trying to learn English the wrong way," she declared, her voice soft yet firm. "That's precisely why you feel you should not learn English. You're trying to capture a river in a bucket. Language isn't just data, it's life." She introduced him to a radical concept for remembering words, not rote memorization, but immersion through storytelling. Attach a silly image or a personal experience to each new word, she advised. Make it memorable, make it yours. Your brain thrives on connections, not isolation. Alex started trying. He envisioned a serene cat lounging on a cloud or a ubiquitous phone ringing everywhere. He found that words suddenly stuck better when woven into his own narrative. How to remember words transformed from a chore into a creative game. Why you should not learn English traditionally, Alara explained, is because traditional methods often stifle natural communication. They focus on grammar rules before real expression. Imagine learning to swim by studying water physics without ever touching the pool. It's counterintuitive. She urged him to shift his focus from perfect grammar to authentic communication. "Forget making it flawless," she said. "Just make it understood." Fluency isn't about absence of error. It's about the flow of ideas. Let your thoughts flow freely. Alara immediately plunged him into English talking practice. She created scenarios, role-playing everyday situations, encouraging him to respond spontaneously. "Don't think, just speak," she instructed patiently. Alex felt awkward at first, but Alara's infectious enthusiasm was hard to resist. "Let me tell you talking tips," she'd often start, leaning forward conspiratorially. "The biggest tip is to speak, even if you sound like a sputtering engine. Every sound is progress. Your mouth needs practice, just like your muscles need exercise." She emphasized that English talking practice wasn't a performance for judgment, but a rehearsal for life. The goal isn't perfection, Alara constantly reminded him, it's participation. Engage with the language actively, not passively. That's how real improvement happens organically. Alex initially tried to translate every thought, slowing him down considerably. Alara quickly stopped him. Think directly in English, even if it's clumsy sentences, she advised. That's how to improve your fluency. You rewire your brain to process thoughts without the intermediary. The fear of, I don't want to make mistakes, but I always do, was deeply ingrained. Alara tackled this head-on. Mistakes are signposts, not failures, she asserted. They tell you where you need to adjust. Embrace them. They are your best teachers, guiding your journey. She explained that every native speaker once made countless mistakes. It's part of the human learning process, Alara patiently explained. Imagine a baby learning to walk. They fall repeatedly before they stride confidently. Language acquisition is no different. Be kind to yourself. Alara challenged him to initiate small conversations. How to talk with anyone, she asked, then answered. Start simple. Hello, how are you? Then listen intently. The secret isn't grandiloquence, it's genuine connection. People respond to authenticity, not perfection. Alex began narrating his daily routine aloud in English, a strange exercise at first. I am making coffee. The water is boiling. It felt silly, but it helped him internalize sentence structures and vocabulary naturally, bridging the gap between passive understanding and active use. He discovered how to improve his fluency by listening to podcasts and watching shows without subtitles, pushing himself to understand context. His brain began filling in the gaps, recognizing patterns and making logical deductions, a stark contrast to his old rote methods. Why you should practice speaking, Alara would say, is because it activates different parts of your brain. It solidifies what you've learned. Reading and listening are input. Speaking is output. You need both to truly master a language, to make it your own. Alex started initiating short conversations with baristas and shop assistants, simple exchanges at first. Each brief interaction, despite a few stumbles, felt like a small victory. He realized that people were generally patient and appreciative of his effort, not critical of his errors. Alara shared a very interesting story about her own language journey, full of humorous blunders and unexpected triumphs. My biggest mistakes, she recounted with a laugh, often led to the most memorable learning experiences. Don't fear the stumble. Enjoy the ride. This anecdotal sharing helped Alex lighten up. He understood that how to learn English wasn't a rigid academic pursuit, but a personal adventure. He started collecting his own interesting stories of linguistic mishaps, finding humor in his journey. His confidence grew incrementally. The I don't want to make mistakes, but I always do thought still surfaced, but it was quieter now, easily dismissed. He understood it was merely a remnant of his old, fear-driven mindset, losing its power over him. How to talk with anyone transformed from a daunting challenge into an exciting opportunity. He began seeing every interaction as a chance to practice, to connect, and to learn something new, not just about language, but about people too. Alex experimented with different ways to remember words, flashcards with images, mind maps, even singing new vocabulary to pop tunes. He discovered that personalized learning strategies worked far better than any generic method he had previously attempted. He started to consciously integrate English into his daily life, not as a study chore, but as an enjoyable habit. He labeled household items in English, listened to English music, and even thought to himself in English whenever possible. Why you should not learn English in isolation, Alara explained, is because language is fundamentally social. It's a tool for connection, not just a set of rules. Engage with people. Use it in real contexts. That's where the magic truly happens. He found that his fluency improved dramatically when he stopped overthinking and allowed himself to just speak. The more he talked, the more natural the flow became, the less he consciously translated in his head. Alara provided specific, talking tips, such as using filler words like, or like, to buy time, or rephrasing sentences when stuck. These small strategies significantly reduced his speaking anxiety, making conversations feel more manageable and less intimidating. The idea of English talking practice shifted from a tedious exercise to an exciting daily adventure. He sought out opportunities, from ordering coffee in English to asking for directions, transforming everyday interactions into valuable learning experiences. Why you should practice speaking, Alara reiterated, is because it forces you to retrieve words actively. Passive knowledge is like money in the bank. Speaking is spending it. The more you spend, the more accessible it becomes for you. Alex realized that true fluency wasn't about sounding like a native speaker, but about being understood and being able to express himself authentically. His goal shifted from perfection to effective communication, which was far more achievable and less stressful. He started watching English stand-up comedy, not just for entertainment, but to pick up natural conversational rhythm and slang. This unconventional approach to how to learn English proved surprisingly effective and enjoyable, enhancing his understanding of cultural nuances. The question of how to talk with anyone became less about grammar and more about courage. He learned that most people appreciate the effort, and even simple gestures like a smile or direct eye contact could bridge linguistic gaps. "I don't want to make mistakes, but I always do," faded into a distant echo. He began to celebrate his mistakes, viewing them as valuable feedback for improvement, rather than humiliating failures. Each correction became a mini lesson in itself. He even started correcting himself mid-sentence, a sign of growing metacognitive awareness. This self-correction became a natural part of his speaking process, demonstrating his active engagement with the language and his willingness to refine it. Alara encouraged him to find an English talking partner, someone with whom he could practice regularly without fear of judgment. This dedicated practice space provided a safe environment for experimentation and rapid progress, solidifying his newfound skills. He found a partner online, and their regular video calls became a cornerstone of his learning. They discussed current events, personal stories, and even challenging concepts, pushing him to articulate complex thoughts in English, refining his expression. This consistent, low-pressure English talking practice was crucial. It wasn't about formal lessons anymore. It was about building conversational stamina and confidence. The more he spoke, the more natural and automatic the language became, a seamless part of him. Alex realized that how to remember words wasn't about flashcards alone. It was about using those words in active conversation. When he actively used a new word, it cemented itself in his memory much more effectively than passive review. The "why you should not learn English" mindset completely dissolved. He now understood that the initial resistance stemmed from ineffective methods, not from the language itself. English transformed from an enemy into a beloved companion. He started attending local English meetups, participating in discussions, sharing his very interesting story of overcoming linguistic obstacles. His journey became an inspiration for others, a testament to the power of perseverance and unconventional learning. How to improve your fluency, Alara always said, is not about speed, but about smoothness. Don't rush. Take your time, find the right words, and let your thoughts flow naturally. The rhythm will come with consistent practice. He learned that the key to how to talk with anyone was genuine interest in the other person. Asking follow-up questions, showing empathy, and being present in the conversation mattered more than a perfect accent or flawless grammar. The let me tell you talking tips that Alara shared were simple yet profound. Breathe, don't rush, listen more than you speak, and always be curious. These tips transformed his conversations from nerve-wracking ordeals to enjoyable exchanges. He reflected on the initial fear of, I don't want to make mistakes, but I always do. Now he understood that mistakes were simply part of the communication process, much like bumps in a road that lead to a smoother journey eventually. His journey was a very interesting story indeed. From feeling utterly defeated by English to confidently engaging in complex discussions, Alex had transformed not just his language skills, but his entire perspective on learning and personal growth. He started helping other learners, sharing his experiences and Alara's unique methods. He advocated for a joyful, practical approach to how to learn English, emphasizing speaking from day one rather than endless grammar drills. He explained why you should practice speaking to anyone who would listen, because it bridges the gap between passive understanding and active communication, turning knowledge into a usable skill, unlocking real-world opportunities and connections. Alex became living proof that anyone could overcome their English struggles. His success wasn't due to innate talent, but to a radical shift in methodology, embracing speaking, and letting go of the crippling fear of imperfection. He fondly remembered Alara's wisdom. The best way to remember words is to use them. He found that words he used in everyday conversations, even simple ones, became deeply embedded in his long-term memory. His fluency continued to grow, fueled by consistent practice and a genuine love for connecting with people globally. English was no longer a barrier, but a powerful bridge, opening up new worlds of information and relationships. The paradox, why you should not learn English the old way, now made perfect sense. It was about liberation from rigid, ineffective methods, freeing the learner to engage with language authentically and joyfully. Alex's story became a beacon for others, demonstrating that true mastery comes from embracing the messy, joyful process of communication, rather than chasing elusive grammatical perfection. Language truly came alive through usage. So, if you don't want to make mistakes but always do, remember Alex and Alara. Embrace the practice, speak often, laugh at your errors, and discover the thrilling journey of how to talk with anyone, truly.